Alright, so I've got an exciting one today. I went on to Goodwill and bought one of the greatest selling consoles of all time, the Nintendo Wii. It was sold as broken just for parts for $10 or $15, and I don't know anything about Nintendo Wiis. I've never taken one apart, so this should be perfect to fix, because I own a Wii. That should give me enough experience, I think. These flaps don't work, but that doesn't matter, because we're trying to take this from broken for parts to used, acceptable condition, cosmetic flaws, and all. So what really matters is, does it work at all, and what's wrong with it? So, let's find out. And this is a bad start because this shows that the output is bad. This is not just my camera. It looks this ugly in person as well. I decided to factory reset it because it was modded and unable to read a disc. Don't worry about the mod. You can install those quickly if you want, but I want this Wii to go out like, factory settings. But we gotta first fix this output and broken disk drive. And to do that, we're gonna need to open this console. I have no idea how to open this console, and they hide the screws well, because some feet have screws under them, some don't. But even as I'm finding some of these mystery hidden screws, it still won't pry open. And I'm really trying to figure out what I'm missing here and why this console won't open up, even though I'm finding your hidden screws, Nintendo. I see. Okay, breakthrough. We have screws hidden under even more places than I would have imagined. I've already noticed that there's about 17 different types of screws, so baggies that are labeled are gonna be necessary here, clearly. I open Game Boys usually. I've opened pretty much 0 consoles. I have an Xbox that I need to open soon as well, and if it's gonna be anything like this, that's gonna be real fun. A whole new world we're jumping into. And this is broken. Cool. Well, it doesn't matter. Hopefully it's just cosmetic, because cosmetic flaws don't matter. We just need it acceptably working by the end of this, because this is one of the greatest selling consoles of all time, so I'm sure it brings in the big bucks when it's fixed. So we just got to trudge on forward and get this thing up and running. And here's where that broken piece of plastic came from, and I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be one solid piece. We'll glue this back together when we reassemble. So I'm just going to keep taking this apart, and my strategy here is to clean the disk drive out and see if that fixes it. And I'm going to replace a bunch of capacitors on this, because I did a quick search on why the output would be dim like that, and everyone blamed it on the capacitors next to the output. Have I ever changed capacitors on something? No. Do I know what kind of capacitors this Nintendo needs? We'll get to capacitors later. So let's, take apart this disk drive and see if I can clean it up. And as I'm taking this apart, I realize there's a lot more tiny parts here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put it back together. So, give the disk drive a good clean and hopefully put it back together properly. If nothing works, or if it explodes, I'll know why. But I think that's how it goes. And we'll clean this because cosmetically flawed doesn't mean dirty. But first, let's work with these capacitors. Now, I got to get rid of these old capacitors to put on the new ones that I got that I think are right. And you're supposed to desolder capacitors, but, yeah. I'm more of a hands-on kind of a guy, and, please look away, those of you squeamish about how to do things correctly. But I'm just going to twist these off and, maybe break the feet beneath them. I don't know. Now let's try to solder on the new capacitors. I've not soldered capacitors. I don't know what I'm doing, so luckily your view is slightly obstructed to protect you from the carnage. As I was doing this, I realized I kind of damaged the feet a lot. So it's time to try to makeshift new feet so that there's still connectivity to the board, and hope that it works. So that's what I'm doing here, is basically recreating new feet onto the board, re-soldering better contacts so that this epic, one of the greatest selling consoles of all time can come back to its former glory, because I know it's gonna sell for a high price with how great the Wii is and how much people like playing GameCube games, and this is GameCube backwards compatible, so it is worth the effort and learning. And look, they're all on there. I have no confidence that this is gonna work. I'm gonna put enough back together to test this, make sure that the heat sinks are on so nothing fries immediately, but that was rough. Nothing went together the way it should have gone together. I had to redraw the tracks onto the motherboard. There's no way this is gonna work.
How?
No way. What? Oh, it looks perfect. Well, I guess I have to learn how to put it back together. Okay, so against all odds, that did work. So I have to figure out how to put this back together. But if I'm selling this as acceptable condition, I need to replace this thermal paste. It's fully dried. And yeah, like this dry. It just comes off. And, you know, unlike DK Oldies, I don't consider dry thermal paste to be acceptable condition. I have standards. So I'm going to use a little bit of alcohol to clean up the paste residue and put on an incorrect amount of thermal paste. I feel like thermal paste, there's only wrong ways to apply it. Everyone will tell you it's too much or too little. So I'm not even having that debate. This is an incorrect amount of thermal paste that I'm also getting all over the motherboard. Don't worry about it. Hopefully it'll just work like everything else. So now I have to put this back together, and this is just me watching back the video of me taking it apart for reference on how to put it back together. Now, unfortunately, the disk drive was not fixed. To no surprise, it didn't just need clean. Something else is wrong with it. But I got a new disk drive for $18, which I think puts us in the upper $30 range invested in this console. And what are these parts even for? But, you know, we're going to get there, I think. And the new disk drive will work. Maybe. Here it is. It looks like the old one. I have no idea what's wrong with the old one because the old one looks fine, so who knows? In any case, I am reassembling this fully. Usually you should test it before reassembling it, but if this doesn't work randomly now, I'm done. I will just sell it as used for parts again. Disk drive not working and video stopped working or something randomly. I am putting this back together for the last time. You know, it is one of the greatest selling consoles of all time, and I'm sure it's worth a lot of money, but I put enough hours and effort and dollars into it that this is it. This is the time to shine. Nintendo Wii. What are these from? Well, I don't know if those were for the Nintendo Wii and didn't get put somewhere, or if I just misplaced some screws. Everything seems to be fine, so I'm not worried about it. Let's test it. Now, the screen looking really bright is because I used a different camera. It still looks just fine, like it's supposed to. And it reads discs now. And I still got it. Okay, so this is an acceptable, cosmetically flawed Nintendo Wii out from the trenches of used for parts into the glory of used acceptable. Kind of refurbished. I wouldn't use that term because I'm not DK Oldies and I believe refurbished has a higher standard than this. So let's see how much this bad boy is worth.
I am never going to financially recover from this.